Exciting times. We have a bunch of awesome new merch, new shirts, new hats, new logo. Also, a brand new giveaway. We're giving away a fully customized one-wheel XR, and every $5 you spend on merch gets you an entry to win one of these. We have a new color and new logo of koozie, sweet bandanas that are upside down. Probably like the most exciting thing that we got is that. We have garage banners now, our very own. Our garage has been filled with banners of, you know, other companies, and now we have our own very official looking garage banner that'll confuse all your friends because they'll be like, yo, why is there a plumbing company with a little Jeep on it in your shop? I don't get it. And then you explain. So if you want to confuse your friends, buy one of those. So head over to our website for all the details on the giveaway. Check out all the new merch. Again, every $5 you spend gets you an entry to win this awesome skateboard one-wheel thing. I don't even know what like category. It doesn't have a category. It's its own thing. It's awesome. You want one.
So yeah, it's essentially doing a brake job on a '89 Jaguar, because that's what all this came out of, and it's a really unique setup back here. So the axles kind of bolt over the rotors. Wow, so, you know, I got my trophy, which we're gonna hang up somewhere because this is the craziest rotor and it took so long to do. All we had to remove is, well, like everything that was in the way. So, I mean, the other side should go faster. We lost a little bit of weight with that, so that's nice. This thing's healthy for sure.
For sure.
We'll give that a little PV blaster and throw in some new pads and put this thing back together. And it might just be one side today, you know? I did some Odyssey stuff before this, and other than that, I might literally only accomplish one half of the brakes in a full day.
This is normally how changing brakes go, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You end up having to hammer the pad backing off of the caliper because it's all one piece now. I would imagine I'm the first person in here. Let's see. That's what we got left. And this is what it's supposed to be. Or I guess I might have the front pad, so it's a little smaller. But that's what a pad looks like. This is what we're working with.
Jeez.
It hole punched through it. I couldn't imagine this. This is something you see on the internet and you go like, no. Well, I mean, you're seeing it on the internet, but this is ridiculous.
So started from the bottom.
And now we're here, dude. So, you know, I made the joke about just taking a file to that, but we didn't go that cheap. We decided to just replace it, and look at the difference on these guys. That's what, I don't know, what is this? Quick mental math, like 30 some years we'll do to one of these. So yeah, we'll get these on there. I did the front brakes this morning, so once we put this back together, it will probably be the only thing we have that has new brakes and will actually stop. So cool, let's do it. Like even my car needs front brakes. I think literally every vehicle here has worse brakes than the Mower's gonna have right now.
Sam's got the brakes and all the really annoying part done, so now I'm gonna help out now that it's easier. We're just putting it back together. The problem with this thing when we drove it briefly is the shocks were just, you know, dramatically too stiff because they're made for, or the springs rather were too stiff because they're made for a 5,000 pound car, and this isn't anywhere near that. So for now, we're just gonna actually just take one, because they're dual shocks on each side, and yeah, that does create a nice equal load on here, but just for a brief test, we're gonna run it with just one shock on each side instead of two, so we can see if that's a better spring rate.
So this pile here, all of this has to go on while you're putting the A-arm on. So when you hold that in place and 12 other washers, then you have to slide a bolt through that. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's a 2-man job minimum. Yeah, I can't imagine how much this would be to take to the shop. And then I thought it through too, not only like, even if you did it yourself and did the brakes, you need a solid alignment or realignment after you're done with all the shims and stuff. You're never gonna get it quite back to where it was at. So I can't imagine. I wanna know what it would cost to bring this to Jaguar and have your brakes done.
After much frustration, we've got it most of the way back together, enough that it's on its wheels so we can roll it around and do a suspension test. And I think that half as stiff is exactly the right amount. That's about what you'd expect if you were jumping up and down on the back of a car. So that feels pretty cushy.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. Now, when we were in this process, I did find a few cracks in the subframe, or tears rather, basically where this thin sheet metal subframe attaches to the thick chassis of the tractor that needs reinforcement. So when we were driving this last time, you could see the whole chassis flexing here in the middle because it's just not strong enough and needs some more reinforcement. Under here where the suspension mounts to this subframe, it's kind of partially torn out of there. I've got a few ideas for reinforcements. One is I'll make a panel that covers this whole area, obviously with room for the shifter, with a few bolts on it. Make it removable. Obviously I can't, welding it would be stronger, but can't do that because we need access to all this stuff. So I'll do that, and then also another transmission mount, because right now the transmission is only mounted at the very front of it and nothing at the back. And so it needs another one somewhere in the middle or the back for, extra strength, which will also help, take some stress off the frame. Oh yeah, it's a nice dimple.
Bada boom.
Decided to go up with it just because, I don't know, I feel like that'll look better around the shifter. And yeah, see how it looks on there. There we go. Now we've got a piece of steel Swiss cheese. That's about as many dimples as I could put in it. It would have been nice for symmetry to do one there and there, but the Piranha doesn't reach for pressing it, and I don't feel like taking the time to do it manually. So there's our chassis reinforcing transmission tunnel cover. Yeah, that's what I'm calling it. Anyway, so yeah, I just have to do a little bit of grinding in here to make it all match, and then set it down and drill some bolt holes, and then we'll have that cover done and attached. So working on the transmission mount / frame stiffeners up here, and I got one side in, and I think it looks quite nice. I needed slightly longer bolts to go through this thick plate here, and that's actually a main bearing cap bolt from the spare 2J, so, you know, recycling. But anyway, yeah, so that bracket there welds in all the way up the side and then into this bit, so it'll stiffen up that portion of frame, hold the transmission in place, and then gain some rigidity from being bolted to the transmission as well. So it's a win-win-win. The rear suspension is softened simply by removing one of the shocks because it had two on each side. The front, we're just gonna pull these coil springs out and cut them shorter because they're extremely basic. They just go in this little cup here on the bottom and then around a thing on the top. But I know from experience, back when we were working on this when it was in the Jag, that they have an absolute ton of preload. So I was taking it out then to see if we could add preload, and the answer was no, because there's already way too much. But when I undo all these bolts, it's gonna kind of go kablam and try to break my wrist. So we'll try to avoid that this time. That's not so bad. Well, wasn't there yet.
Man, that's a lot of pressure built up in there.
Yeah, there's thousands of pounds of preload on it. Here's the coil that came out of there. Extremely beefy. And the plan was just to cut it down. But then I thought, might as well look at the scrap pile of coils. And I found these, which I think are probably from an old Subaru that I had, or maybe from the Ute. I'm not sure. They're old coil springs from something. And they're the same size, but they're considerably softer. I mean, you can tell just by looking at it, but also that's my weight on the original one. Much squishier. Oh, look at that. A little bit of sag. Exactly what you want. Yeah, perfect.
Oh,
You can't even make it move.
yeah, that's a big difference.
It was, well, before we did anything, it was so stiff that, like, if you went over uneven terrain, it would just lift tires. It wouldn't compress the suspension at all. It was essentially rigid, but yeah. So now we just gotta take this one off, cut that other spring, slap it in there, and then take it for a test drive. The whole hold it up with the jack method didn't really work because it just shot the mower up in the air. So this time we've got a very heavy-duty ratchet strap around it, and we'll see how that works. Yeah, that worked considerably better. Now, just to see if I can release the ratchet strap without dying. Which shouldn't be too hard. So I can stay out of the way of all the explodey bits. Woo!
Wow.
There's a few pounds of force there.
Dang. The explosion of dirt on the inside of that mount.
Yeah. We got the springs off these rear coils, rear coilovers, so now we have both shocks, but only one set of springs, which, you know, it's gonna make for some asymmetrical forces, but probably doesn't matter. It's super overbuilt for what it is. Anyway, yeah, so everything's back together. Got this plate bolted down, and the front is nice and squishy now, so, you know, the whole thing actually kind of moves instead of just, you know, laughs at you. Anyway, so yeah, time to test drive it, see how the new suspension feels, and see how the brakes feel. The engine still has not been tuned, so it, you know, just kind of sort of runs decent. But we'll deal with that later.
Sounds surprisingly good for those little short fake exhaust pipes, huh?
Yeah, it does. This is a dusty day, is it not? Wow.
Yeah.
I was like hiding behind you there.
Yeah, it's only the beginning of June and it's already just piles of dust. Man, this thing is fun now. It's a lot easier to stay in the seat when you're not just getting bounced everywhere. It helped to have some, you know, side support. Well, the brakes kind of work. Yeah, I don't know. Should we try the hill climb or something?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why not, right?
That's a little different. So we were rolling at 50 PSI in the tires, so that was not helping us at all. We dropped it down to 5. I think things are about to be a lot different.
Nice. Might have got it hot.
So we were doing some burnouts for the thumbnail, and this overheated pretty bad. Sam got bored, and he's already flipping off the trees.
Yeah. This is a perfect tree for it, too.
It really is.
I mean, if we had some people who were actually good at riding dirt bikes, you could easily backflip off of that on a dirt bike.
Oh.
Like the guys that are, you know, that do the trials and stuff.
Yeah, you
like,
could mountain bike backflip send that too.
Yeah, just a little ramp of dirt.
When's Wes coming over next?
I don't know, we could backflip this on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Barbie Jeeps, you know, everything. No.
So what's the plan for the next week on this then?
I mean, obviously our Honda Civic radiator isn't quite sufficient, so eventually we'll have to come up with a solution there, although non-stop donuts and burnouts isn't exactly normal conditions either. But I mean, also we need to get it on a dyno. There's a lot of things we need to do. We gotta build an actual exhaust pipe, get it on the dyno, get some better cooling going on. It's a huge improvement with those softer springs in the front and only one set of springs in the back. Way nicer ride. And it's in its natural habitat right now, in the grass, destroying it. It may not mow grass, but it'll remove it permanently.